Hi there. It's wonderful to be back. I had the pleasure of being here exactly a year ago today, where we were able to announce a transformational partnership with National Geographic, with the Wyss Foundation, and the government of Benin, where we pledged a $24 million commitment together among the partners, throwing a very much needed lifeline to Pendjari National Park, which is, in essence, the last wild remaining place in all of West Africa, and the largest remaining. And so it was wonderful to be back here today. I'm not actually going to talk about Pendjari National Park. What I hope to do in the next 10 minutes is walk you through a little bit about who African Parks is, our model, why we are partnering with National Geographic, and part of the Last Wild Places, as well as to take you to the country of Chad, where I'll end on a story of, an unlikely story of recovery, one of restoration, and ultimately a living story of hope. But first, and I know I'm speaking to so many experts in the room, why are we in this, what we call the conservation crisis? What is this all about? There are three main drivers that are causing this. One is the heavy militarized poaching of high-valued species like elephants, rhinos, for the lucrative illegal wildlife trade. This is destroying not just entire herds or populations, it is driving species to extinction. There's the bushmeat crisis, where what we're seeing are in these wild places, in forests and savannas, places that are completely covered in cheap, easy to make wire snares, killing everything within those landscapes. And this is largely for the need for protein and for local sale. And there's the large leveling of wild areas and habitat loss and fragmentation for the needs of humans, for monocultures and other development needs. And this is all exacerbated by the fact that there are people living in these areas that are dependent on these areas, just eking out a living. Unfortunately, what we see over and over is that these are some of the most forgotten, some of the most marginalized people just trying to survive, living in and among the last of the wild. There are fewer than 1,200 formally declared protected areas across Africa. And at the rate at which these threats are happening, we estimate that at best, in the next 10 years, perhaps 50, maybe 100 protected areas will persist that are larger than 1,000 square kilometers. That's not very much. And I hope I haven't depressed you enough. Moving to the good news here. Besides the fact that we do stand to lose these vast, wild functioning ecosystems that produce clean air, clean water, they truly are the last line of defense for the health and security of millions of people. The good news is that wild places still exist. Wildlife aren't in crisis. This is a human crisis we're in. And the fact that this is man-made means that we can re-engineer this mess that we've made. Never has our future been so foretold. Never have we had so much information at our fingertips. The question is, will we do what's right in order to save these areas and ultimately to save ourselves? This is why African Parks was founded in 2000 to answer the critical question as to why are protected areas failing. And our founders found there were three main things: lack of will, lack of skills, and lack of money. And so our model hits these things at the core. We enter into, on average, 20-year management agreements to fully manage protected areas on behalf of governments. We choose the management teams, from the park managers to the heads of law enforcement. We put the right people in place. And the money, we come into these agreements with at least 3 years of sustainable financing, and the money flows through us in order to cut through corruption. But the crux of our model is that we are 100% accountable. So that means the successes are everyone's, but the failures are ours, and ours alone. And what we envision is being able to unlock the ecological, the social, and the economical value of these protected areas long into the future. So by the end of our agreements, the governments and local communities have no choice but to keep these parks running long into the future. We currently manage 15 parks in 9 countries, spanning 10.5 million hectares. This is the largest amount of area under conservation for one NGO in Africa. We have more than 5,000 staff, 99% of them are African nationals. 1,000 of those 5,000 are rangers. Our goal is to manage 20 parks by 2020. There are 5 key pillars to the work that we do. Once we secure that management agreement, we provide the law enforcement, we take care of the wildlife, we engage and work very closely with communities. We try to unlock an economic value or the revenue chains from those areas, and we deliver management and infrastructure. So with law enforcement, this is really about training and equipping the men and women who are the rangers on the ground, providing technology, but also providing them the tools that they need. It's not just men with guns. It's ensuring that the men and women have the right tools to meet these threats head on. In terms of wildlife, we often are assuming management of landscapes that have been completely hunted out and are devoid of wildlife. So in some cases, we bring animals back in to where they were before. Here we moved 500 elephants successfully from one park that actually had too many for the size to a new park to help revitalize. We've brought back lions and rhinos and cheetahs in order to restore these wild areas. In terms of the community side, we're working to build schools, to provide scholarships, to deliver healthcare, whether that's through mobile units or supporting hospitals. But these benefits that these protected areas provide, they have to be real, they cannot be perceived. And these are the things that people need and want living in these areas. Tourism, it's not always possible in every park that we manage in places like Central African Republic or the Democratic Republic of Congo. But in some places we're seeing, for example in Rwanda, Akagera National Park is 80% self-financing in just an 8-year period because of tourism alone. In terms of management and infrastructure, it's pretty extraordinary to go into a park and to see the underbelly of what it takes to actually manage some of these large areas. The thousands of kilometers of roads that need to be graded, the thousands of kilometers of electrical fencing, the jobs that these parks provide. We are often the largest employer in some of the regions in which we work. So what does this all look like when it comes together? That's why I want to take you into Zakuma. Zakuma National Park, which is in the southern part of the country of Chad. So Zakuma has had a bloodied past. Between 2002 to 2010, more than 4,000 elephants were slaughtered for their ivory. The poachers on horseback came in, wreaking destruction not just for wildlife, but for the local people living in the area as well. In 2010, we were invited in by the Chadian government to try to stop the bloodshed and to turn this story around. And it wasn't without our own devastating losses. In 2011, in our first year there, 6 of our rangers were gunned down execution style while delivering their morning prayer before going out on patrol. But it didn't deter the team. The rangers got on their motorcycles, they got in their boats, they got on horseback to patrol the area and deliver security and safety to the park, using technology and just boots on the ground, getting to areas to prevent poaching from happening in the first place. One of the key things was working with the local communities. We built airstrips, we delivered radios, we asked the communities to alert us at the sign of any illegal wildlife activity. The interesting thing was they started to alert us about all illegal activity. And what we did, and remember, we enter into these places for 20 years or more, we show up again and again and again, and we built that needed trust. We built schools. Last year, 1,500 children, often nomadic children, received an education for the first time in their lives. Tourism is on the rise in this park. There's a free campsite for Chadian nationals, a mid-level campsite, and a 5-star, or it's a 3-star, luxury tented camp that is booked out now a year in advance. And what about those elephants? Well, remember, 4,000 killed between 2002 to 2010. Between 2010 to today, we lost 24. And the ivory was all recovered from each one of those animals not entering into the trade. And so they began to stabilize, and they began to be elephants once again, which meant that they started to breed. Last year, we counted for the first time that the population has been on the rise in decades, surpassing 560 individuals. Of those numbers, we counted 127 elephant calves under the age of 3 years old. In 2011, we only counted 1. So now I just want to turn to a short video and take you to Zakuma. And what we see today are these same wild elephants that lived through that catastrophic time. They now come to the park manager's house and they drink water from the hose out of the hands of rangers. And not only have they shown us that they have learnt to trust again, they've shown us, as anthropomorphic as it sounds, that they have forgiven. And what we see over and over is through working with our government partners, with partners like National Geographic, among others, that we're able to create these safe places. And where nature is rehabilitated and restored, so too can be our own humanity.